Hey everyone, welcome back to my channel. I'm so excited. My friend asked me to help her decorate her house for Halloween. Now I already have a few decorations from last year, but I wanted to make some decorations specifically for her house. Okay, now we're gonna use these wooden houses that I found at Michael's and we're gonna spray them black. These are supposed to be for Christmas, but I thought it would be so perfect to spray paint them black, and they have light bulbs inside and it's gonna be perfect for a spooky Eerie village for her house.
As you can imagine, this was pretty simple to do. I made sure that I had a barrier down on the floor so the paint wouldn't seep through to my flooring. I also made sure to wipe down the houses before I spray painted.
Next, we're gonna take these candle holders that I found at my local thrift store and we're gonna spray them black. It's gonna have the perfect vibe for our Halloween decorations.
I really love the way these turned out, but it was a little more challenging than the houses only because of the material of the candlesticks. So I just had to make sure that I didn't overspray so I wouldn't get any dripping of the paint.
We're gonna take this bouquet and these ornaments and we're gonna make a spooky bouquet.
So making this bouquet, I'm going to start by figuring out where I want to place my eyeballs. I decided to pick the 3 flowers that were sticking straight up. Next, I'm going to make sure to make room for our eyeballs in the middle of the roses. So I like to spread out the leaves to make sure that there's enough room. It's a little tricky with 2 hands, so I had to make sure I really flattened out the middle of the roses. And I just placed some hot glue on the bottom of the eye as well as on the sides, so that way you wouldn't be able to see the hole from where I removed the stem of the ornament.
Next up, we're gonna take this pumpkin and I'm going to carve out some holes into the pumpkin. I ordered some rubber mice that they're gonna fit perfectly inside each hole. So it's gonna look like the mice have just been eating out of the pumpkin.
As you can see, I already made the first hole and placed my first mice in. This one was really fun to do and was definitely one of the projects I was looking forward to doing. I placed the second hole on the top of my pumpkin. It was fairly easy to do. I just had to make sure my holes were big enough because my mice were very large in their bottom areas. So I had to make sure that there was enough room for them to get in there. Next, I kind of just looked at my pumpkin and decided where I wanted to place my holes. I wanted to make sure that they were spread out, but still close enough where you'd be able to see most of the mice from just looking at it straight on.
Next, we're going to take these spooky candle holders and I'm going to actually stain the skeletons to give it more of a vintage and real look.
As you can see here, I already spray painted the bottom of the candle holder along with its handles. I then used just cotton balls to apply the stain onto the skulls. I did get some of the spray paint on the actual skull on the bottom, and I realized that once I was applying the stain, it actually gave it more definition. I used different techniques such as dabbing the stain onto the skulls, and I also wiped down any heavy stain residue. I really love the way this turned out. I did notice it was left a little sticky, but it just needed a few extra days to dry. All right, this was another one I was really excited about making. So I got these oval frames from the 99-cent store, and I also purchased the skeleton hands there as well. So what I wanted to do is I wanted to just super glue the hands on the frames, so that way when you hang them up, I could place a candle on top of them. I felt like it looked really eerie and just super cool. These originally had beetles on them, so I just unscrewed and removed the beetles from the frame. I made sure that the hand was exactly where I wanted it placed, and I super glued the hand onto the frame. I also laid the frame side by side so I could make sure that my hands were at the same level of each other, so that way when I placed them up on the wall, they were the same height. I can't wait for you to see how these turned out. This next project was so easy to make. I purchased it at the $3 to $5 section at Target, and it came with the vase in the bottom, so all you had to really do was provide the filling inside. I only had cotton balls available, so what I ended up doing was just spreading out each cotton ball and placing them in layers. So I made sure that the bottom layer was just a little bit bigger, and then it would just get smaller as it was going up. I didn't want it to fill up the whole vase. I wanted it to appear appear that this ghost was floating. So I just made sure to glue each layer of cotton balls. So what I ended up doing was just gluing the cotton to the back of the vase. These next two projects are going to be the ones I made last year. I wanted to show them to you because I thought they were so cool. This one was a little bit more time consuming. I used a paper towel roll and I cut them in different sizes. I used hot glue and I placed it on the outside of the paper roll to make it look like candle wax was dripping down. I then glued some lights in the inside of the paper roll, and then I threaded over some clear thread through it as well, so that way when it was hanging on the ceiling you wouldn't be able to see the thread. And then I finished it off by spray painting the actual candle. These are such fun decorations. The lights have lasted me since last year. The only downside is that you have to manually turn them on and off. And our last project is our orange pumpkins. These I purchased at the 99-cent store last year. They're originally black and I spray painted them orange and I tied some clear thread on top. These are definitely one of my favorite decorations. So I thought it would be a fun surprise to bring over some Halloween treats. First, we're making some ghost pretzels. I melted up some white chocolate and threw in some pretzels, making sure that they were completely covered before placing them onto the wax paper. I then placed some googly eyes onto my pretzels and I placed it in the fridge and let it cool down. I must say these turned out so cute and so delicious. Next up, we're doing some Oreo Frankenstein. I'm so excited for this. I first melted some green chocolate, dunked my Oreos in there, and made sure they were completely covered before placing them onto my wax paper. I then used some black icing for his hair, as well as for his mouth. It was so fun to give him different shaped mouth to give them each a different fun personality. For the eyeballs, I did place the same icing on each Frankenstein where the eyeballs were going to go. This really helped secure the eyeballs on the Frankenstein and made sure that they didn't come falling off. These next desserts look so stinking cute. We're going to make some flying bats using miniature Reese's cups and some Oreos. First, I laid out my Reese's cups onto wax paper, and then I used the Oreos and I separated each cookie. I broke each cookie in half. These are going to be used as the wings. Next up, I melted some black chocolate and I placed it on top of the Reese's cups. This is going to help bond our wings, aka the Oreos, onto the Reese's cups. Then I'm going to use the same chocolate and I'm going to place it right where I want my eyeballs to go. Again, this is going to help keep those eyeballs really stuck onto the Oreos so they don't go flying off. Maybe it's because I'm a huge fan of Reese's Cups and Oreos, but I will say these probably came out the cutest of all of the desserts that I made. I love them so much. Okay, now I've saved the coolest for last. We're making zombie fingers. I have been saying that nonstop because I find it so funny. So now that we're making some zombie fingers, let's talk about how we made some. First, what I did was melt some green chocolate. I did add some white chocolate in there just to lighten up the color. I didn't want it to be the same color as the Frankenstein's. So I did that, melted it, and placed it onto wax paper. So that way I could just roll in the pretzel rods, as they call them, onto the chocolate, and then placing them on another set of wax paper. Once I had everything on the wax paper, I let the rods cool down, but not completely, and I used a toothpick to make lines on the rod. Imagine it being like the zombie knuckles. So I made sure to go through all of them and place at least 3 lines on top and 3 lines on the bottom. But I made room because we're placing some almonds as the fingertip. Now that our lines and our knuckles are placed on our zombie rods / fingers, I melted some black chocolate and I threw in some almonds. I made sure they're completely covered and I placed them onto the rods. Next time I make these, which I'm definitely going to make them again because one, they look so cool, and two, because they were actually pretty delicious, I'm going to make sure to place the almonds on wax paper first to let them dry, and then again, as the same technique as the other ones, use icing on the actual rod and place the almonds on top so they can bond well together. It was just a little messy placing them onto the rods while it was still fresh. But by far, this was probably the most delicious treat of all of these. Now let's take a look at the reveal. Thank you so much for watching, and please don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. I hope everyone has a safe and happy Halloween. And don't forget to take care of yourselves. See you next time. Bye.